Noting the time is 5 p.m., I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for June 18th, 2025 to order. Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Alper, absent. Commissioner Forney. Here. Commissioner Menz.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer, absent. Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Vice President Musich.
Present.
President Abeni.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. And just so my colleagues are aware, Commissioners Alper and Schaefer will not be joining us this evening. The agenda is before us. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
I'd like to move out the regular meeting minutes of June 4th, 2025.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of June 4th, 2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And with that, we will move to reports of officers, and I'll turn to the Superintendent Bangora.
Thank you, President Benny and Commissioners. I only have a couple of things to share here, a little bit different than our strategic directions, but just some things I want to update the board on, of course. We talked about reporting in on our youth sports league, and so I'll just give a quick updates on what we are doing within our athletics. So fall sports declaration for pre-formed teams was originally set to close on June 1st. What we realized, however, is that as of June 2nd, we only had 11 teams declared across 23 divisions and 3 sports, which is not enough to form leagues in any division. Several agencies have expressed that they needed more time to organize and declare. So, of course, in response, we first extended the deadline to June 11th and are now extending it again to June 30th to allow additional teams the opportunity to sign up for the program. So, of course, we're adjusting as we go and making sure we accommodate as much as we can the teams and their needs. If any teams still find themselves without enough competition in their division, the children from those teams will be welcome to sign up individually and participate in our recreational league instead. So we're working very closely with them, and again, we're going to continue to make sure that we accommodate as much as we can as our first year. So I think the team is doing a great job, and hopefully we get some more teams to sign up. I want to quickly address our added safety measures at Boom Island. I think you all have received that information on what we're doing there, but just a quick highlight on where we're at. So starting on Monday, June 23rd, the park entrance road and parking lots will be closed at 9 o'clock p.m. Park visitors cannot drive into the park after 9 o'clock p.m., but the park and park trails, of course, will remain open in park use. So that doesn't change anything around the organization as far as ordinances or anything. It's just the parking lot. What we're also doing is we're putting park attendants will be assigned to evenings when valid NPRB permits or picnic and events have been issued. So we're going to make sure we have attendants there at that time for those groups that have permits currently. And the attendants will let the picnic and event attendees in vehicles exit the park when the permits end at 10 o'clock p.m. So we're accommodating the ones that are going to be in that space until that time. So again, we're going to have attendants out in the park at that time. In addition, that we have mobile camera that will remain in the park, and NPRB's Community Connections and Violence Prevention Team will continue to routinely patrol the park. They will be in the park giving extra eyes on the park. And of course, the added park police personnel that was assigned to Boom Island from 8 p.m. to midnight will continue through, of course, June 22nd. But the park police will continue to patrol the park as part of their ongoing citywide patrols of parks at Boom Island. There's more information I've shared with you. I'll give a little bit of history on the back of the park and where we are as far as the last 17 months and obviously 2025. So there's more information to share there, but I just wanted to make sure I share the fact that we are at this time, we're going to enact this starting right away, and hopefully, again, we'll find that the park will have eyes on it, and we are clearly understand the concerns of that park, and we're going to make sure we pay attention to it. So the last thing I want to bring forward, as I've said before, is that as many of you know, of course, Communications and Marketing Director Don Summers, I got you. Don Summers is planning to retire July 4th, 2025. And I'm just going to read this. I put this out here before too, so I think you've seen this, but I want to make sure I acknowledge her, and I'm going to be real brief. But I am grateful to Dawn for almost 20 years of service at MPRB. She created the communications and marketing department, I think from a force of one, right? It was like Dawn was the person in her early years focused on her efforts on media relations, the City of Parks book project within the Minneapolis Parks Foundation. That book is amazing, working with David Smith, creating the MPRB's customer service department. Dawn was the person that did that. And partnering with planning and to establish the archive program at HQ, which has been absolutely amazing and thriving. Dawn then developed what she often refers to as her small but mighty team that currently delivers this incredible range of communication services internally and externally. And there's no question what Dawn produces out of that department is ridiculous. And her team is absolutely amazing. And Dawn will be very humble, and she'll give all the credit to her wonderful people that work with her. And I know all of them, and they're amazing. So, of course, we deeply, deeply appreciate Dawn's dedication, initiatives, and outstanding contributions to this organization. And I could go on and on and on, but you guys know that I'm a crybaby, and so I start to kind of get emotional, but she is amazing. Congratulations. All right, that's President Abene. And Commissioners, that's all I have at this time. Is there any questions? More than happy to answer.
Thank you for that presentation. I do have a question. When is Ms. Summers' last day?
July 4th.
July 4th. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Menz.
Thank you. Thanks for that report, Superintendent Bangura. I would like to make a suggestion maybe to make it easy on folks. Maybe there's a way for us to hold a certain amount of spots for teams. I know that in tournament organizing, you're holding until you get to 6 or 8, and then that might make the planning easier for the rec team, but also hold those spots available. It's hard for school teams right now to organize, so thinking about that, looking into the fall, might be a good adjustment to make sure that we're successful with the league. I'd also like to make sure and encourage us to, returning park teams in the future. If they're returning with a coach, thinking of those as pre-formed teams, even though they're within the park system league. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to reports of appointees to outside boards, commissions, or committees. Does anybody have anything? Commissioner Forney.
Thank you. Yes, last week, the Minneapolis Institute of Arts celebrated Dr. Catherine Crawford Luber, better known as Katie Luber to all of us, anyway, who is the Nevin and Duncan McMillan Director and President in the 5 years that she has served there. And I just wanted to put a shout out. I'm really grateful for the work that she's done and her leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just do a quick report. There was a Board of Estimate and Taxation meeting last Wednesday, June 11th. The city made their presentation on what they call current level of service, and they look at the 2025 current level of service, and then they use that to show what the impact might be or what might be needed in 2026. And the park board, we did not make a presentation that night. We've been pushed out a couple of weeks, which is fine. But it's one thing that was worth noting in the presentation is that our line item was visible in the discussion of current level of service, but our current level of service dollar or percentage amount was not reflected. So I think there'll be more coming there, but we're working on kind of gaining some awareness on, among the BET members about kind of the park board's needs going into 2026. So with that, we'll move on to the consent business. Would somebody move or pull an item?
I'll move the consent agenda as a slate.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent items as a slate, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
On behalf of the Planning Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2025-101, resolution concurring with the State Park Road Account funding and design criteria city engineers request for a variance from Minnesota Department of Transportation State Aid Operations Rules 8820.9946 for the number of one-way lanes and road width for Lake Harriet Parkway within the Minneapolis chain of lakes, regional park, from Roseway Road to 42nd Street West for the Lake Harriet Parkway paving projects SAP 027-600-012.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Resolution 2025-101, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
On behalf of Administration and Finance Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2025-105. Resolution approving lease agreement with Nice Guys Corporation, leasing commercial space at 3104 Pacific Street North, Unit 203, located within Above the Falls Regional Park for a 13-month term commencing July 1st, 2025, the rate of $3,000 per month gross, including utilities and taxes, with the first month free.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, we'll need a roll call vote on this. Secretary, will you please take the roll? Oh, and Secretary Ringel, do you have something to add? Okay.
Commissioner Alper, absent. Commissioner Forney,
Aye.
Commissioner Menz,
Aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer, absent. Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Vice President Musich,
Aye.
President Abeni.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 absent.
That motion carries. So we're moving right through here. We'll go on down to, we have one discussion item this evening, the East Phillips Open Space Plan. And with that, I'll call Emma Pachuta up to the podium. Hi. Ms. Pachuta, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here with my colleague, Carrie Day Aspinwall, to share a little bit about an update about our East Phillips Open Spaces planning process that launched in the fall of 2023, before bringing either of the parks that are part of this process to the board for approval later this summer and fall. So first, I'd like to invite Carrie Day to say a few words. I'll just note, we have contracted with Carrie Day, and she's been an invaluable advisor to this project, and that's been alongside her work on the Indigenous Action Plan.
Thanks, Em, and good evening to you all. It's always good to be in front of you. We have so much to share and so excited about the work that's going on in the community. And again, rather than smoke you out today, I've kind of taken care of that business for us a little earlier today. But just know that, our work comes with the blessings of our people, our culture, and of course our spirituality, and that's what leads and guides our people through millenniums. And I did fill you guys' basket with fresh medicine, so you're good now for another 5 months, let's say. And again, I really appreciate the direction that you all give, and your ability to be able to welcome and accept and extend your opportunities to our community. So with that, I'll say thank you. Let's see here. We really are appreciative of this unique experience that we're having with the park board. We've got a strong commitment from both parties, and it really just makes the work that much easier, because again, we're meeting each other kind of in the middle of the road. Sometimes we have to lean in a little bit on either side, but we're getting a significant amount of engagement and work done, and more so understanding of one another. I have to also shout out to our Native Partnership Council and the work that they and experience that they bring to this work. honestly, you've got the best team you could possibly ask for with that partnership council. They're well-known, they're well-versed, they can move in and out of different circles and yet remain committed and strong and centered with their message and their position, and it's the same with us. And so again, we just had a partnership meeting last night, and I just always feel so good after those meetings because they are very forward-thinking and building on positive, on the positiveness of all of this. So with that, I'll go ahead, Em, we'll keep going forward.
So Carrie's going to bring the heart to this presentation. I'm going to bring like the planner jargon. The South Service Area Park Plan was approved in 2016, and as you can see, both Cedar Avenue Field Park and East Phillips Park, that is now part of our open spaces planning project, were both listed as parks to receive concept plans at that time. For different reasons, neither received a plan in 2016. Park Board staff did return and actually complete and approve a concept plan for Cedar Avenue Field Park in 2017. And East Phillips Park to date had not received one, which is why we are now moving through this, because we do have CIP funding to begin improvements at East Phillips Park. So just a note, we chose to include Cedar Avenue Field Park as part of this planning process for a few reasons. One, we heard from some Little Earth residents that they felt that the concept plan from 2017 didn't fully represent their vision and their voice. We also recognize that these parks are about half a block away from each other, and so we really wanted to make sure that we could think comprehensively about amenities and sort of how the designs spoke to one another. And then additionally, there are a number of different agencies that are completing projects on adjacent private and public property. So again, we wanted to think a little bit more comprehensively about this design, which is why we're calling it the Open Spaces Plan. And for those who don't work, live, or play in this neighborhood, I just want to note that it's a really colorful neighborhood. It's full of culture and community. Parks and green space are really central to the events, to the sports leagues, to activism and culture in this community. I'll also note that in fall of 2023, staff had decided not to seat a CAC, Community Advisory Committee, which would have been required for the East Phillips Park Plan. Part of this was because we believed that, staff understands that sometimes it takes more resources and ability to participate in 8 to 10 2-hour-long evening meetings over the course of 12 to 18 months. We were really concerned that some of the cultures and communities wouldn't be able to show up for those types of meetings and wouldn't be represented at the table. And so we wanted to make sure that this community could show up within the demographics that exist. We also know this neighborhood struggles with socioeconomic issues that really impact and also contribute to their ability to focus on a park design all the time. So for all these reasons, we felt that close partnerships and consistently showing up in the community to have dialogues about those parks outside of what we would normally see as a formal CAC process was really the way to do this. And that's, again, another reason why we wanted to work with Carrie Day, who's from the neighborhood and can make sure that we are really showing up and building those relationships. And so the Carrie Day will walk a little bit through some of the work that we've done on the ground.
Yeah. I can't stress to you enough how important this partnership, though, has been to the community. We spent many years being in each other's presence, but we are talking and listening to one another in a deeper way and understanding those cultures that are there. And when you start those genuine relationships and having those real conversations, people show up. They begin to trust you. They begin to recognize who you are. If Emma's not with me out there, they're like, where's your buddy? Where's Em? And what are we going to do today? What is it that you're bringing to us today? So, I mean, this whole, within the Indian community, it's so important that we share knowledge, that we share whatever we have, whether it's a lot of stuff or just a little, or if it's just conversation. And our people really recognize that we're coming to them in a genuine way, because it isn't all about telling them what's going on, but listening and hearing what they feel about what could potentially be at their parks. The Resident Association, huge. NAC, Native American Community Development Institute, is our strongest engagement agency there in the community. Little Earth Protectors, we've got a number of folks there that stand strong in the community, ready to, move from Cedar to East Phillips. They work in partnership with our park police, and again, these reciprocal relationships have been so significant to the success that we've experienced thus far. And other cultures, Midtown Greenway, I mean, again, these folks, East Phillips Improvement Coalition, alongside the American Indian Movement, alongside Powwow Grounds, Somali Radio. So again, these are deepening relationships, and again, wonderful shot. I mean, this just really shows it. I can explain it to you all day long, but again, come out. I know some have visited our events, and these are truly the goals of this partnership, is to bring heart to what we do, to bring that genuineness. We really worked very hard to be authentic in these partnerships. We didn't or overpromise. We didn't underpromise. We were there hand in hand with the community. Yeah, so we've did things a bit differently than I think I've experienced in the past, and this feels much better. When I can have someone like Meg Forney come out and dance in the powwow with us, wear a traditional ribbon skirt with us, and look happy about it, is and it's genuine, and everybody recognized that. It was, hey, Carrie Day, what are you doing with that lady, kind of thing, and who is she? And so we've brought so much to the community to help build that understanding and open up those discussions. And, we talked about door knocking and flyering with resident representatives. These are truly the residents of Little Earth and outside Little Earth. And, we talk about reaching out to folks. There's 823 doors to knock in Little Earth, and they hit every single one of those. That's what engagement is. That is face to face. They know we're there. They know that there's people behind this machine called the park board, and it really, again, it opens us up for some really cool stuff if we want to do that. The Somali community and our native elders have always been really careful with one another, and again, it's because understanding each other's culture and having knowledge, and now that we've presented these opportunities to give input to something as common as these two parks, it's really changed the dynamics of the community. We've had a nationally renowned Native architect show interest in this work, came out and did a presentation, and he's from White Earth, and he's retired, and he's just like, you are knocking on my door right now, he says, and I think I really like to step back and keep supporting you all. So I mean, again, our work is out there. It's national, and John goes all over the place, and so folks are hearing about the work, and I want to get one of those gold medal awards for the engagement that we're doing in a very non-traditional community, if you would, and to have so much input and kind of say about what's going to be present in those renewed parks. It's amazing. We have not received that kind of opportunity, and so I can't say it enough, doing this work in a different way, introducing people to one another, different cultures, different spaces, different food. I mean, we all kind of gather over food, and that just makes things a little bit easier, sharing language and music, and so I really have to commend the park board for opening yourselves up like that. And sometimes that's a little bit risky, because being safe in one space or one way is tried and true, right? Well, take a chance. It's fun. I think you'll enjoy the ride if you would. Let's see, where are we?
I'm gonna go, I would be speaking next.
Okay.
If you're done with the.
Yeah, if they're, again, come out anytime, join us, ask questions. If there's anything, you know, you want to know about this project or around or beyond, ask us. Because again, this is causing quite a discussion in the community. And how do we get that at our park? And how did they connect like that? And who's doing this? And so again, it's really prideful to be able to say, this is the Park and Recreation Board doing this. And they're like, what are you doing, Carrie Day? How come you're here? What are you doing? So it is really fun to be able to out and represent this work. So, yeah.
Okay, so through our partnerships, we still followed our normal planning process, which is 3 phases. The first is our vision discovery phase, where we really do relationship building and ask folks what they want to see in their parks. Then we pivot to phase 2, which are design iterations, and have that dialogue with the community. And then our phase 3 is our plan approval. Just wanted to note, so this is kind of a snapshot of our Vision 1 discovery engagement. We worked with a lot of different community partners doing large events that brought in hundreds of folks, all the way to small focus groups where we had like very focused conversations with 10 people. And taking a snapshot back from phase 1, what we learned was that really we were talking to 2 different audiences at the park. Cedar Avenue Field Park is a much smaller park. It does not have a rec center or bathrooms or as many sports amenities. So we were really working with folks that lived within a 1-3 block radius of the park. That was really the audience, and that included the Little Earth community. And then with East Phillips Park, you know, we were really drawing in a much broader neighborhood amount of folks. And then additionally, there are a lot of sports leagues that happen that actually draw people in from the city and the region. So for that reason, we actually felt like we could move forward with our Cedar Avenue Field Park design at a quicker speed because the audience was smaller. And we really wanted to make sure we spent more time making sure we talked to all the audiences that use our East Phillips Park. And so for that reason, we did actually split the planning process a bit. And so we will be coming to the board this summer with our Cedar Avenue Field Park design for approval. And then we're going to be bringing our East Phillips Park a little bit later to give us that extra time to engage some of that broader audience. There was one other thing that we wanted to share with you, which is we had some requests from community related to, and I'm using the term land back because that is the term that the community used. I recognize that term is messy, and I try to be very careful when I personally, as a staff person, use that term. And I just wanted to share and be transparent with you about those conversations ahead of our park approval process. So first, with Cedar Avenue Field Park, we received a number of requests for land back from Little Earth residents, basically for the park board to potentially give ownership to Little Earth. That was the request. And so we actually went to their board. We said, we're hearing this. Do you want to have conversations about it? Staff try to do our due diligence when we hear feedback in the community. They said yes. So Carrie Day and I attended a number of conversations with the Little Earth board. We brought information about our policies. We made it very clear that staff were not actually the people that would make that determination. We could only open the door for conversations. We shared things like costs that would be associated with the park if Little Earth took ownership of it, theoretically. We looked at policies, for example, at the park board, and what happened was with Little Earth, the park board and Little Earth collectively agreed that it would be in the best interest of the public and Little Earth for Cedar Field Avenue Park to continue to be owned and operated by the park board. So we are planning to proceed forward with our concept plan approval on our phase 1 construction, and they are interested in continuing to have a close partnership with the park board in a number of different ways through things like potentially a stewardship agreement or co-programming at the park, which we're really excited about. So we don't anticipate that this conversation changes anything related to our approval process, but we wanted to be transparent both with our board as well as with the public that conversation did happen in the community.
Yeah, I'd like to add, land back is a big word, you know, and it's like, this is really big action. We should just like do this. But again, you need to unpack that stuff with folks, because again, that's a really big expectation to meet. And through the help of our superintendent and just resources and research that I did, I needed my community to understand what this really undertakes. Cedar Field is probably one of the smaller parks in our system, but when we did the math, when we did the research, when we showed and we presented all this, because again, we wanted them to make sure that they had all of the information that they needed to make an informed decision, because this is a big deal. This is a very big deal. It sounds great, and you can jump on this bandwagon and whoa. No, after we did that presentation and, gave them some time to think about it, it really did come forward that, it probably is best to go forward in partnership and understand what all of this means. I said, that means everything above ground and everything underneath the ground. It means everything up above. And that really, again, because we're so deeply connected to our environment, it was really upon them to make a solid, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be in a partnership like that or even undertake anything like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I hate to interrupt, but we have this open time thing.
Yep,
That we're
yep.
time certain, but we'll be back. And I look forward to that. So, but right now, I'm going to read the open time rules. Thanks to those of you who have come to speak during tonight's open time. The board's open time rules are as follows. I will call on people from the speaker list only. Names are added to the speaker list by calling in before 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting or by adding it in person at the board meeting before 5:30. The time allotted for all speakers shall not exceed 15 minutes. We have 4 speakers, so we'll do 3 minutes per person, up to 3 minutes per person. Time may not be transferred to someone else. Please watch the timer and stay within your allotted time. This is an opportunity for you to address the board. We are listening, but we don't respond. That said, please don't hesitate to contact any of the commissioners for dialogue and further discussion. To protect the privacy of individuals, please refrain from commenting on specific personnel issues or pending litigation. Discriminatory or harassing words directed at anyone will not be tolerated, and each speaker is asked to state their name and address or where they live. So the first name on my list is Mary Robinson, followed by Renee Camara.
Hello, can you hear me okay? All right.
Yes.
I'll state my name and address. Mary Robinson. My address is 5232 38th Avenue South in Minneapolis. It's the Nokomis East neighborhood. I'll say off the bat that I didn't know right away what else was on the agenda today or that I would be interrupting a discussion about an important project like this. So I will just make sure to take my time and go. Luckily, the thing I have to talk about is much more easy, than anything else you're doing here tonight, so that's great. It's about baseball and softball field usage. Very easy to do. My daughter is 13 and she learned to love baseball and softball playing rec ball for many years when she was young with her friends. So thank you so much for being part of something that she is passionate about and now has big goals around. She's part of the 612 softball league, which I don't know if you know, but it's essentially the girls' equivalent of the Millers in softball, or that's how I like to think about it. She has big goals to play for Roosevelt, go Teddies, all 4 years, and then hopefully eventually play for college. So just thank you so much for everything you do in the day-to-day that contributes to things like that. The reason I'm here is because my daughter and all the girls on her 612 team, they've played many fields in Minneapolis. They've played many fields in the suburbs. They've been to Minnetonka. They've been to Delano. They know what a good field looks like, and they know what a bad field looks like. And they know that it matters where they get assigned to play. And having a field at Boston this season has made a big difference to them. It means that we have better quality home games. It means that we're not driving out to Minnetonka or Delano to have games all the time. And it means she can tell her male counterparts at middle school that she also plays at Boston, just like the Millers do. So it's a small difference, but it is a difference. We are losing access to that field at Boston starting in July to make room for the adult rec teams, and the girls are going to play instead at Todd. I don't know how familiar you are with Todd, but it is not nearly as well maintained as Boston is. It has divots and weeds and goose poop and glass shards and very poor lines and all of these things. The girls were there yesterday. Many of them found glass in the field, picked it up, brought it in to throw away, but there weren't trash cans. It's just a very different experience. I love, adult rec is great. My daughter always says that adults should play instead of going to the gym all the time when they get old. And why do they always lose the sense of wonder and fun? And that's great. But we should hopefully be able to share with the adult rec leagues because they only play one night a week. So if we could maybe move those portable fences back and forth so the girls could keep bossing, that would be lovely. And thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you very much. Renee Camera, followed by Gary Spears.
Hi, my name's Renee Camera Good. I'm a resident of Minneapolis. My address is 3215 Irving Avenue South. And I am also here to talk about softball fields. So I think we've been let down again. After the initial resolution that passed in 2023, finally this year in 2025, we were awarded, I guess, the privilege to play at Boston Fields, which is kind of an ideal field for softball, including a clean porta potty, right? Everybody needs a bathroom. The fields were ready. You know, it feels safe and welcoming. But we were recently displaced. We were told that the adult softball league was going to take over Boston. So yeah, last night we had our first game at Todd Field. As you know, Todd Field is a Tier 3 field compared to a Premier 1 like Boston. We were told that we were going to be able to play in Boston until Todd was ready or some of the maintenance was kind of up to speed, and it's not. There was glass shards in the field. There's potholes. There's weeds up to your knees. The porta potty was overflowing. It was very unsanitary. The door couldn't lock. You could smell it probably 30 feet away. I don't know who can help us, but we do need help, you know. Our girls need to play. It needs to be safe. It needs to welcome other teams to come. We don't really know what else to do. I was at the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee. I don't think much came out of that. We keep showing up, and it doesn't seem like we have anybody on our side looking out for us. I understand that we all need to play. I understand adult, youth, but what I don't understand is when people actually think that Millers and 612 are equivalent. We're not. This is a gender issue. This is an equity issue. New adult softball leagues, baseball teams, they all get priority over our girls. We just take all the broken promises from you guys. I don't know what else to do. Girls are left with broken fields time and time again. Right now, the girls are supposed to be playing at Rod Carew. They can't get in. It was locked. I left my daughter there 10 minutes ago. They still can't get in. So this is what we're getting. It's kind of not fair. We need someone to be looking out for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Gary Spears, followed by Mike Forsha.
Yeah, I'm Gary Spears here, and I'm on 44th and Minnehaha Avenue. I grew up in the area now that we've removed the Sibley Park sign and now it's 40th Street. I'm still pushing the efforts for Chante Tiza Wian, the Strong-Hearted Women Park, and I've come back with some more signatures with our long-standing petition here, and afterwards I'd like to make a copy, but also in time, me and Mike Forsha and others had gone out to visit Leonard Peltier, who had just recently get out of federal prison after 49 years and was a leader of the American Indian Movement, which is now the American Indigenous Movement. And what I found out later on, him living on the Turtle Mountain, is that his father is from Turtle Mountain, and he is also from Spirit Lake, which is involved in the Dakota removal from Minnesota area, which is just like me. I'm in Red Lake, my father's side, and my mother is Crow Creek, which we were all violently removed from there by Sibley. Now he signed that petition and 100% supports us in this effort. So I've reached out to there regardless of where they got moved to North Dakota or South Dakota, wherever the U.S. government or Uncle Sam moved them to. You know, I'd like you guys to honor that petition, and we have the full support of Leonard Peltier now with this petition here that, for Strong-Hearted Women, Chante Tiza Wian, and we'd like to push that forward. McRich, Business Alley. I thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you. Mike Forsha.
Well, we're back again. I just wanted to ask Carrie, when you had the American Indian movement up there, who was that you were talking about that you had on that list?
What do you mean?
Well, you had a list up there that said you worked with the American Indian movement. Who was that you?
That's you guys. We've been talking about Sibley and.
Oh, sure, okay.
You guys want to see.
Yeah, okay. Because there's actually two movements here in the Twin Cities. I just want to make sure that who she's talking about. And some of those people on that list have never once said they want land back. They have programs, they need money, they partner with you for cash, they advertise your events. So in a sense, they're kind of bought out a little bit, but not one of them has ever demanded land back, ever. And it's disappointing to hear that people will deny land back because of such an expense. Oh, it's so hard to get, so easy to take it, but it's so hard to give it back. Can you imagine what's going to be happening in Gaza, West Bank here in a little bit? There's going to be people just like you figuring out how to design a park. And there'll probably be Palestinians there saying, we want land back. Oh no, we need everybody to play over there. Well, what about us? What about the people who are displaced? See, we went to see Leonard. We talked about the Red Road Village plan, loves it. Talked about land back, that's one of the main things the American Indian movement was for, land back. We gotta get some of this land back. Not the place where you live, not your property. City parks, county parks, state parks, national parks. It's doable. If you don't have this big old white tape, so easy to take it. So easy to take it. How many times have I been here? These guys won't even look at me. I got a letter from him saying we should talk about it. How many times have I called here to make an appointment to talk about something? And we have people dying in the streets. Have you ever been there? I know you have. Becky's been there. They went down to the encampment. They seen what my relatives live. And here we are again, burying our dead. We just had mass shooting here in our community, right across from the shelter that I helped run. This is something you don't see. You got millions and millions of dollars you're working with. You can give a little 6.5-acre park back. It's something you can do.
Thank you.
Because we will be disrupting. Leonard said, do not be violent. Do not destroy. But we'll be in your face. We'll be at your events.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you
Okay,
listening.
with that, we'll move back to where we were. Thank you to everyone who came for open time. And we'll like to call Ms. Pasciuto. Where did she go? There she is. and Carrie Day Aspinwall back up. Ms. Day Aspinwall?
Thank you. We only have, one more minute, really, on this presentation. I also wanted to share that during our engagement process, we've also heard conversation around land back for East Phillips Park. We received 3 proposals from Indigenous groups to transfer East Phillips Park parkland over to the Indigenous community to be used as a tiny home village to support community members struggling through addiction. And we know there are a lot of issues that a lot of community members are facing. I will say that this topic didn't come up often during our engagement. We did hear some asks for it. I will also note that honestly, when it came up, more community members, though many acknowledged that the need for support for their community members, They strongly also felt that there was a really big need to have green space in their community as a park and as a place for healing. And so that was really where the community engagement took us, was that the folks that live around the neighborhood and on the adjacent blocks really wanted East Phillips Park to remain a park at this time. And so we're not done with our East Phillips Park engagement process. We're still in the middle of that. But right now, our 3 initial concepts that are out for review show East Phillips Park proposed as a park with proposed amenities.
Yeah, and just to add, and not to place Mike and I in any kind of an adversarial position, but I did talk to Mike quite a bit about it. And again, land back is a big deal, and it costs a lot of money. It has to be well structured. There's got to be capacity. I mean, and again, when we did the research on all of it, we ran the numbers. Our park here gave us the numbers that we requested. We presented them, and honestly, Little Earth was like, we just got our relatives off of our couches, off of our patios, and if we took this on, it places them right back in the same place again. What's going to change? What will change if we make this? Because we're going to be taking away park space from our kids. And I talked with Mike about that. There's a lot of capacity that needs to be built in this. Who's supporting you? Does our Indian community support you? Who? So again, we've had these initial discussions. It seems like a heavy lift. And again, I appreciate our staff and folks who've been trying to help bring that understanding. Homelessness, addiction, whether it's indigenous or otherwise, is a big deal. And I think my position is we need to create stronger partnerships. And again, I really appreciate the violence prevention folks that are out in the field with us at our events and otherwise. And so it's important that we understand one another and that we are sharing what it really takes to do this. We brought it up right away to Little Earth, and because that was kind of our first meeting with them, and we were like, okay, we need to really know what we're talking about here. And I'm sure a few of you, through our questions and inquisition as to what does this mean? How do we do this? And literally, in some cases, it's an act of Congress. It's an act of Congress to bring this transition. And so again, we're here to present information so that folks can build that understanding, know what it is that our community needs to do in order to move that initiative forward. Is the park the right place? Yeah, well, it's got all this land and all that stuff, but is it really? Because we really need to listen to the folks that live in and around the park. And again, it's difficult enough for our Little Earth communities to be, to hold their relatives in such a space where it's like, you've got to, I want to help you. What can we do to help you so that you're not here sleeping on our patios or in our park? There's got to be something better that we can do. So again, I don't begrudge a tiny home village. Is the park the best place for it? That would have to come from the community. It really would. Again, there's ways to go about this, and I've lent my expertise to Mike. If he so wants it, he has to pay for it just like everybody else does. So, and I still welcome that. It's something that needs to be flushed completely out so that everybody knows and is understanding of the undertaking. And yes, having Leonard Peltier undersign any document at this time is significant because, again, he's been a leader who has, fought the charge. And again, what's the outcome then? What's the outcome? So I'll just leave it at that. Anything else, Sam?
Thanks, Carrie Day. No, just again, wanted to be transparent with the public and with our commissioners about the conversations and where our engagement sort of led us to this point. So again, we're looking to bring our Cedar Avenue Field Park design approval for this summer, and we're anticipated for East Phillips Park would be later this fall or winter. That's all we've got. Thank you. Take any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thanks for letting us interrupt for our open time. And to the member of the public who commented, I'm sorry I interrupted during this period. No,
Since my name was mentioned, I should speak.
Mr. Forsha, no. Anyway, I'm going to call on Commissioner Menz. Go ahead.
There's no reason why we couldn't work together and you keep the land.
Okay.
And then we can
Yep.
just work together.
Okay, Mr. Forsha,
And we don't
please.
have to have ownership of it,
Okay.
but we have to do something.
Okay.
We have to do something here.
Commissioner Menz, please.
That. Thank you, President Benny. I do have a question. So, can you clarify for me? We're naming the group the Native Partnership Council. It was the Indigenous Parks Council. I want to make sure that when I use that language, I'm using the accurate language because I think that that's really important.
We've been renaming a few things here and there. So the Parks Council is the formal name is the Native American Parks Council at this point in time.
Great, thank you. And then I'd really like to just commend you all and staff for exploring a new way to get maybe some more authentic community engagement. It's very difficult to get community engagement from different groups, and I hope that we can maybe use this as a model for something as plans come up for approval, so that we can make sure that that process of looking at these plans that we've created authentically at the time that they're happening as well. So thank you very much for that increased engagement.
Well, I'll just maybe make a couple of comments. I can see a lot of work has gone into this, and I do think that the Park Board as an organization really, as a public organization in the context of the way we do our municipal and local government, but I think the Park Board does a really good job with engagement. I really do, because it's try and try again. And it sounds like in this case, I think that we're hearing from people in a meaningful way, so that's great. I'd also comment on, I appreciate all of the ways that you just introduced the land back topic, and Carrie Day Aspinwall, that's a big topic, and it is. And I think that what resonates with me is that I think sometimes the things that are working in our spaces, that are working, are things that we maybe start to take for granted. And I do think that you had commented, green spaces and our parks and green spaces, nature, access to that right out your door is, you can't overstate the benefit of that, and we shouldn't take it for granted. And so coming to kind of a realistic kind of way of saying, how do we perpetuate this in a way that really includes the people who live here in a truly meaningful way, to me is a win. So, okay, I think we are good to go. Thank you all. And we have a resolution on our agenda, and would you move it? Yeah.
Oops, I'll move under new business, Resolution 2025-130. This is a resolution directing the superintendent to prepare in coordination with local construction trade unions a project labor agreement policy applicable to certain capital projects of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board.
I heard a second.
Yes, sorry. Second. Yep.
And yes, we have questions right off the bat. We can also have some people that could be here to answer some questions, but go ahead, Commissioner Menz.
I just wanted a presentation on how this came about and why it might not have gone to committee before coming to the full board.
I'll go ahead and answer that question. So one of the things we were thinking about, that this could come to the full board for discussion to bring this forward, because it is coming from commissioners essentially. One of the options today is, and it is just giving direction to the superintendent to work on a policy. It's not an action other than that, but we can always refer it to committee if that's one of the outcomes that we want to take for tonight.
Thank you for that clarification.
Policy would go through committee.
Yes, and then if we do this and direct it, and then there's a policy that then comes forward from staff, that would definitely go through committee. Yep. You done, Commissioner Menz? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I also just have that helps clear up some of my questions too. I have a clarifying question that seems obvious. Is this in an effort to help streamline some of our projects and make it a little easier to flesh out? Is that the impetus behind this?
I'll attempt to answer that, but I may also call on Michael Schroeder. This is something that I think has a benefit to the park board in terms of our larger projects and things like that. Maybe Mr. Schroeder will speak to that. And it's something that I think that the trades units would also benefit from out in community, because it would also, I think, establish at the start of our longer, bigger projects a clearer set of rules and so on. So, yes.
President Benny, I think I would just echo most of what you just said. For larger, more complex projects, it would be a way of ensuring that we have qualified, skilled labor delivered by the trade unions to the contracts that we hold with general contractors or construction managers. And the other thing, that there's benefits, there's multiple benefits, and we've described some of them in the background to this action. For the park board, it ensures that we're going to be able to move projects forward without work stoppages and with the labor that's really skilled in the trades that we need to do more complicated projects. The policy that we talked about will really help us refine at what level we would do this. The city of Minneapolis has used it for like their public services building. I believe Target Field used it, Hennepin County used it for our Target Field. We don't know at what level it would apply, but I'll also note that there will be benefits for the trade unions. And President Benny, if it's all right, I might introduce Dan McConnell, Minnesota Trades Council, to come up and speak about that.
That would be great. Thank you for coming, Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mike Schroeder, and thank you, President Abene and Commissioners. Dan McConnell with the Minneapolis Building Trades, Minneapolis resident, 3317 47th Avenue South. I appreciate the opportunity to come and be part of this conversation. I think the staff direction, if I'm not mistaken, is just to start the conversation and start figuring out how we can work together more closely on project delivery. I did notice on the staff direction that it said aligns with goal 9. I would make the argument that it would could align with goals 1 through 9, depending upon how we end up with this. And I would ask for your support and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Thompson, do you have other questions?
You know, that was mostly covered it. The Vice President Musich said that they would, if a policy came out, that would come back to us. And I was just understanding that that's the way I read it. I just wanted to clarify before I voted, because I take my vote seriously, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Actually, I was just at a labor conference and Commissioner Menz was there as well, and heard you speak, Mr. McConnell, to PLAs and the importance of them, and so I think this is very timely, and this is very it's very wise that we're going forward with this. It does provide a lot of benefits that kind of underscore a lot of what we're going for. The one thing is that I would just want to make sure that we don't pursue kind of piecemeal policies with this. I would want to make sure that we're as inclusive as possible. So go beyond just certain capital projects, just construction. Because I think it's kind of important. We have many different labors within our jurisdiction, and to kind of ensure, and we have many different projects that are more than just simply construction. So and I know we could amend a later policy, but I would like to kind of start out big umbrella inclusive, and then we can kind of potentially narrow it, or as staff look into it if they see that, okay, we've really looked into it for these other industries, or not just industries, but other kind of projects like restoration and other things, that maybe we narrow it then. But I would rather start big and then go narrow. So I would like to re-refer this to the appropriate committee, where potentially I could maybe bring forward an amendment for us to consider that would broaden the scope, and then we can let staff kind of decide if it needs to be narrowed, or we can have the discussion as a board, just to be as inclusive with with labor as possible.
Commissioner Menz.
Yeah, I would also support it going back to committee. I'd like to, if Mr. McConnell would answer a question or two. So I guess I'm trying to read this and figure out, how is this not circumventing maybe like one local unit versus, like, if there's a bigger project, is this going to allow us to hire other labor, even if that contract is under dispute? Or, and I'm sure that you're looking into this, and I'm sure you're making sure that labor and workers are supported here, but thinking broader and making sure that we're not, minimizing or making sure that a project goes forward with other workers who are skilled and union-based, but maybe not our own.
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Madam Chair, if I may. Commissioner Lenz, so the Building Trades Council is an umbrella organization, right? We are comprised of about 26 affiliated local unions, I believe is the count. We cover the whole range of construction, right? And we actually do have a handout that I'd ask that we all should give to the clerk here at the end, but for more information. But we, under public sector scenario, the project labor agreement doesn't prohibit anyone from bidding on the project, right? Everyone has to follow the rules that have been, or the contracts that have been negotiated locally, right? So the area standards. And then if we bring in someone for a specialty from, say, Chicago or from wherever, right? From a larger market, like we did, like on some of the historic theaters, right? We had to bring in some ornamental plaster work from Chicago. That does happen from time to time, absolutely. And we deal with that on a regular basis. It's no way would it prohibit that.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I would support it going back to committee if that's okay with President Benny.
We can have that conversation. I'll make a couple of comments. This is really, this has been going on with other organizations, as Assistant Superintendent Schroeder mentioned, for a little bit of time. And Park Board doesn't often have projects that maybe go into multi-year, but we do have some. So that's partially why I think the Park Board hasn't already deployed something like this. It really is for the building trades specifically. I think that's the intent of this, because it's really related to construction projects, kind of ground up building. Because that's, I think, one of the functions that employs a significant amount of building trades, and also for a critical time period, project duration. So I think that's the intent of it. And it's something that I think would just fit nicely with the way we already work with the trades on projects, and people that come from outside the area, prevailing wage and all of that stuff. None of that would go away, so. Okay, any other comments or questions? I do see Commissioner Olson.
Well, just so, I guess we can have a vote on it. Do we think the point of privilege, I suppose, would the appropriate committee be admin and finance?
I think so.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to move to refer this to admin and finance at the next admin and finance meeting 2 weeks from now, where we can possibly consider further amendments or discussion to this.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion about moving this to committee? Commissioner Thompson.
Council Rice.
Oh, and Council Rice first, sorry.
Go to him first.
If I may, I appreciate the discussion on the board. I'll take a little bit of responsibility. I thought that it would make some sense to see if the board was willing to move forward with this initially, and then allow Mr. Schroeder and Mr. McConnell and perhaps myself to develop some agreement that could get in front of the board to do it. But it's certainly within the board's discretion about how to do it. I'm a little familiar with project labor agreements, or just how they exist and how they've worked with other, Hennepin County, City of Minneapolis, Metropolitan Sports Facility Commission, even the state of Minnesota. I think there was certainly, typically our park contracts are not of the really large scale. They tend to be more landscape oriented, but we have started to do more buildings. And I think the issue was, is the board interested in this as an initial thing to tell the staff to go ahead and work with Mr. McConnell and his organizations to come up with something. And I don't know I'd leave it to Mr. McConnell and Mr. Short, at least initially, on how long it would take him to get a draft. I don't know if 2 weeks is there, or if there's something else the board wants to give direction now as what it should look like. That would be helpful.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you so much. That was my initial gut about this. I was like, why is this not in committee? But hearing the conversation, I'm recognizing that we do have hopefully breaking ground in North Commons in the next month, right? Which is a huge building. I know people want, I'm blanking on the park, all their massive building. Someone will save me because I'm blanking out right now.
What's that?
No.
In Commissioner Alper's district. And so I do think that's appropriate, especially if the policy is coming back to us. I personally am okay with whatever we decide as a board, but I'm leaning toward, I'm okay with this just being here right now, and we don't have to refer to committee, knowing that it'll come out of committee that once it's been established. We can just maybe speed it up a little bit. Thank you, that's my 2 cents.
Vice President Musich.
Thank you, President Abeni. I'm interested in hearing from my colleagues what other project bids we put out that are not construction-based that they think that a project labor agreement would apply to. Since that's the rationale for putting it back to committee. I'm not familiar with any projects we put out for bid that are for things other than construction that our labor partners would be bidding on. So if someone could help me understand that, I'd appreciate it.
I support that question because I also do think, we do have a representative from the building trades here. This is really specific to the building trades, which is okay. There may be other things out there that maybe need consideration, but this one really is related to that. Commissioner Menz.
Yeah, I would respond to that question by stating that it hasn't gone through committee. There hasn't been enough discussion for me to understand fully what this project labor agreement would work for. I hear you. There might be more knowledge, and I trust Mr. McConnell to represent the building and trades unions. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't go too fast and we miss something that's broader, like Commissioner Olson said, that might apply to other unions. Because although we might not be bidding out, there may be other pieces of this or language pieces that could impact other unions who we work with and other labor. So I'm concerned to not make a step that would impede other labor agreements unknowingly from my own ignorance, even as a person who is in a union and who understands this stuff somewhat. So, but I'm gonna trust Mr. McConnell. Mr. McConnell, are you're thinking that this is just, we're gonna go forward and we're gonna try and create a plan. We might be able to amend that afterwards. Is that correct?
Madam Chair.
And what would the time frame be on that creation if we don't send this to committee today and we just vote on it and the superintendent directs you?
I'm not feeling qualified to talk on the timeline on this, but I do think that we can have a robust conversation. I don't just represent the building trades. I'm also on the board of the Region Labor Federation. I'm the Secretary Treasurer, I'm the longest serving officer on the Region Labor Federation board, and talk with my colleagues all the time, right? And so I think that we can certainly have a robust discussion with staff and bring back something that is broad, right? And we can flesh that stuff out through that process. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. Like, I think having a conversation is good. That's why I'm here, because I want to be part of the conversation. So whatever you guys decide, I'm good with.
Thank you. And I
Thank you,
did not
President
pay
Bank.
attention to the order over here. I'm sorry, were you done, Commissioner Menz? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind us that we do have a motion on the floor to move to committee at this point.
Right, that's right, good point. So speaking to the motion, Commissioner Forney?
Yes, speaking to the motion, I feel that the original motion will bring it back to committee ultimately, and that is where the discussion should be occurring, and I have great trust in shall I say, the vetting, and as Council Rice has just indicated, he has a vast amount of experience. I know that Mr. McConnell has a vast amount of experience, and so I feel that referring this motion back to committee is premature, and I would vote against it. Thank you.
Vice President Musich.
I don't believe Commissioner Reckers had an opportunity to speak on this, so I'll let him go first.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So, okay, we vote yes, this passes. Will it come back to admin and finance? That's what I want, so we can have a broader conversation.
No, let's clarify. There's a motion on the table to send it to admin and finance for the broader conversation. If that passes, that's what happens. But if it fails, then the staff will go and work on a policy And that will eventually come back to admin and finance, a draft policy.
Yeah, that's what my question was.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Vice President Musich.
Thank you, President Benny. So I was going to clarify that, so I appreciate you taking the time to explain that. The intent that we added this to the agenda with, President Benny and I, was that we felt that this was an important opportunity for the organization to work with our partners at the trade unions to begin the conversation around what it could look like for us to enter into an agreement like this. As we communicate in pages 237, 238, and 239 of our packets, which is the background material, we note a number of things that we believe would benefit us by working towards having something like this in place. The promotion of cost-effective, timely, and safe delivery of construction projects by providing access to reliable supply of well-trained and skilled construction trades personnel. An assurance of greater productivity and quality for construction trades personnel, resulting in cost-effective performance and reduction of maintenance and repair costs over the life of that project. Establishment of uniform terms and conditions of employment for contractors and construction trades employees working on a capital project. Integration of work schedules and standardization of work rules for a capital project, resulting in well-coordinated, efficient construction work site with minimized delay in progress of overall work, and promotion of labor harmony and assurance that construction will proceed without interruption from labor disputes through contractual guarantees against work stoppages and mutually binding procedures for resolution of labor disputes. And we go on. But I mean, I think we're not trying to subvert the body's ability to weigh in on whatever is brought forward to us. We just wanted to start the ball rolling. And so that's what the resolution tonight's meant to do. I don't understand the value of sending it back to committee at this time, other than to slow the ability for us to start the work. So I would ask that we advance this evening. Thank you.
Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, I'm not trying to slow things. I'm not trying to get in the way. This is great. This is admirable. This is important that we're doing this. Like, absolutely, just trying to kind of, from my perspective, move it forward right, because it's easier to make the scope of the exploration of the policy than to amend the policy later, right, when we have the discussion. And so to your point, kind of, Commissioner Musich, you're talking about specific trades. Maybe I misspoke. I'm just kind of referring to in here, resolved a PLA applicable to certain capital projects. I would just, rather than certain, why not consider first all, right? So, and there's, certain state statute of, where various labor agreements apply to projects, meaning demolition, erection, construction, there are places that we can refer that to. And yes, I will stop soon. And, potentially, there's also, for having this discussion around PLAs, there is, kind of certain, theories and labor theories behind it, and, labor neutrality agreements, and we have agreements with other, nonprofits. We have with, contractors, with, refectories and things like that, and potentially making that a more inclusive policy. And so that's just kind of my thinking of why we would send it back first, but would be happy to discuss it after we get the project. And to you, Mr. Trader.
Yeah.
President Benny, Commissioner Olson, part of the reason that we said certain is because we don't know yet how it would apply broadly to all capital projects. For instance, you approved, even in tonight's consent agenda, capital projects that would be advanced to a cooperative purchasing agreement we have with the state. We don't know if it could be applied in the same way. We can look at that, but we don't know yet. So the certainty of projects, or the threshold for projects, would be identified in the policy that comes back for consideration by the committee.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. So I guess, that specific question, well, I think we do have a motion before us. It really is about whether or not to send this back to committee. One of the things, I appreciate Vice President Musich looking at the background material. I think it was fairly thoughtfully developed. I helped develop it. So anyway, but I think it also, is not, the intent here is to work with the building trades on this. And there are other models out there. So I've actually seen some other models. This is not rocket science. This is a win-win, I feel, for both the the skilled trades that are in our community here, for the ones that are here too, and in case we do have to bring in outside members and so on, or outside firms, but also for the park board as well. Because it helps mitigate risk and it gets us what we need to build the things that we build. So I guess I shouldn't be talking to that so much, but I would like to, I think, go ahead and take this to a vote. I'm planning to not vote to refer it to committee, but I certainly will be interested to see how everybody else votes. So with that, on the motion to refer this back to committee, maybe, Secretary, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Forney.
No.
Commissioner Menz.
No.
Commissioner Olson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rucker.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer. Absent. Commissioner Thompson.
No.
Vice President Musich.
No.
President Abeni.
No.
You have 2 ayes, 5 nays, and 2 absent.
Thank you. Okay, so we're now back to, okay, Commissioner, the main resolution unamended or modified. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, this is great. I'm gonna vote for it. This is good. I mean, no, I was just trying, there's, just kind of some, ideally to go back and do stuff, but it is good. So happy to vote for this.
Thank you. Commissioner Menz.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that that's how this process works, and I appreciate Commissioner Olson bringing that amendment forward, so thank you very much.
Yep, I agree. Always good discussions. Okay, so I think there are no other lights. So, all those in favor of Resolution 2025-130, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes or carries. With that, we'll move to petitions and communications. I'm going to call on Commissioner Menz first.
Thank you, President Abeni. Let me get to my notes a little bit here. I have been really grateful for the work of our park police and the responsiveness of the superintendent to ensure some temporary safety measures at Boom Island Park. I'm not in support of more policing in our parks, but I think that in order to temper the environment that was happening and that space at Sunset with all of the different groups that are either permitted or not permitted can be a place where it's hard to disperse people, and the parking lot can become a place of gathering that could become not always the most ideal for people to feel safe. So I was there a couple of times to observe, and I think that the new recommendation to close anyone coming in at 9 is great, and allow people to come out. I've seen that happen. I would encourage our park police officers to not drive on the lawn in the middle unless necessary, and maybe, I don't know, more relationship building within those groups outside of those cars. But I have spoken to a couple of those officers. I've spoken to people who are in the park at that time, and just making sure that they understand that this is a temporary measure, that we're not trying to over-police, because there can be conflicts that come up for our park police at that time as well. Also, the 612 issues are real. I think that this is one of those things that I'm willing to work with staff and help support the group, because I do have experience with fields. There are, and I know that staff even knows that there are issues. There are difficulties in maintaining and supporting fields to make sure that they're prepared properly. There are things that change. There's lots of moving parts with this piece, but we have to get this right, and we can. Maybe it's changes of workflow, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but making sure that our young people are prioritized and perceptually prioritized is important, and getting in partnership with groups. If you can't beat them, join them. And I sent an email to the superintendent today, and I would highly suggest that we look into partnership with 612 softball at a larger level, similar to maybe what we have with the Lopet, because our recreation, it has been very challenging to manage softball. And we heard today that we can't form a league with 3 teams, but we've done it with softball before in the past because we haven't had enough girls playing. And I think that girls playing baseball is an inclusive place, and if we can delegate to an organization that is obviously motivated and invested in our park system and providing really adequate and exceptional service to girls in that specific sport, then maybe we should explore that type of partnership. I think we would benefit, I think the community would benefit, and I think our field spaces and our maintenance teams and our youth sports teams would also benefit from that partnership. So I would encourage us to explore that.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that in a second, but I feel completely inadequate to be the first person in the room on the meeting tonight to mention this, but so be it. I won't let my time pass without it. And I just, we have a real violence problem right now going on in our community, whether it's problems at Boom Island where we have to close the lot, or it's Bade-Makaska, which we already had to do a month ago, or the horrific events of this weekend. And I don't know what to say about it. I don't know how to solve it. It's like, feels like my life's work to try to find a way to solve and protect children, but like now there's different levels. And so I will leave it to one of my colleagues to speak about the people that we lost this weekend who know them better, but I'm deeply saddened, and I know that we all are. That being said, as pertains to softball, I have tried very hard to not be heavy-handed in this pursuit. I know I may have been that at the beginning, but I am definitely the person on this board and probably in this room who knows that sport and better than anybody. And we are really dropping the ball, and we have been dropping the ball. And I feel like with the residents that have come up tonight, it's the straw that broke the camel's back, the conditions of Todd Park, whether it's glass or, I mean, there's a video I was sent of the bathroom, the biffy that has no lock, and it's covered in feces. It was disgusting. And I mean, we have people coming up to save a specific ice rink, which we all listen to, right? But that's because our system has a ton of ice rinks, and guess what? You can use them for figure skating or hockey, right? We don't have any fast pitch softball fields, which is a robust sport for girls. I mean, I'm sorry, I spent last night watching like clips on TV of Caitlin Clark and the game of basketball. Like, women's sports are having a moment, and we're not there for them. And I'm just, I've heard some rumors. I'm grateful for our superintendent for addressing them, but I've heard some things that are really challenging to hear sitting in my position, and I've just sat on them because I don't want to cause drama, but I hear the girls, I hear the families, and I think I would agree with Commissioner Menz that we really have to do better. So that's my thing for tonight, and thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Commissioner Forney.
Pass.
Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, so obviously there's events that we, I think we plan some space to talk about it further in our intergovernmental committee. But I'll just leave it at, there is a vigil at the Capitol at 8:30 to commemorate and honor and remember Mark and Melissa Hortman. And yeah, so just wanted to let people know about that is something they can do. And I will have more to say in committee.
Commissioner Rucker.
Pass.
Vice President Musich.
So I wasn't prepared to talk about this in committee because we don't have anything on our agenda. So I'm going to use my time to just acknowledge that we lost some really important people in the community this past weekend. And everything that I wanted to say just it paled in comparison to what their kids said about them. So I'd like to share just a few words from Sophie and Colin's statement on the loss of their parents. Our parents touch so many lives, and they leave behind an incredible legacy of dedication to their community that will live on in us, their friends, their colleagues, their coworkers, and every single person who knew and loved them. If you'd like to honor the memory of Mark and Melissa, please consider the following. Plant a tree, visit a local park, and make use of the amenities, especially a bike trail. Pet a dog. A golden retriever is ideal, but any will do. Tell your loved ones a cheesy dad joke and laugh about it. Bake something, bread for Mark or a cake for Melissa, and share it with someone. Try a new hobby and enjoy learning something, and stand up for what you believe in, especially if that thing is justice and peace. I'm gonna really miss seeing them and knowing that they're out there doing good work, just like we're trying to do up here.
Thank you, Vice President Musich. And there will be a topic in the next committee or at the legislative committee as well for the Hortmans. So I just want to also just add my voice about the softball, and I think that the park board did well in the spring. We did well what we delivered to the community, and as I think Commissioner Thompson said, maybe the straw that broke the camel's back. I think we have to be consistent in delivering this interim condition until we build actual fields for girls. And I feel pretty discouraged about the whole thing, I have to say, and I also do wonder sometimes why maybe girls do have to take a back seat on things, maybe something just a little less nice. And I mean, that was true when I was a girl, a little kid, and for it to be true today is really discouraging. So I think that it's something that should be in our sights to say, you know what, we need to kind of overcome kind of where we've been, and how do we do this. And I think the commissioners, I think we've been trying. So let's see what we can resolve here, and we'll have another season next year too. I mean, let's see what we can resolve this year, but we'll have another season next year before we have one of the fields that's even built, and maybe even one after that. So, okay. With that, I'll adjourn the full board of the park board.
Thank you. With that, at 6:26, I will convene the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. Secretary Ringel, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Musich,
Present.
Commissioner Rucker,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Vice Chair Olson,
Here.
Chair Menz.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Can I take someone to move the agenda?
I would like to move the approval of the agenda.
I would like to suggest that I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include an item, a discussion item on an appropriate way that the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board can commemorate the life and service of State Representative Ms. Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman.
Second.
Don't need a second in committee.
We have to vote. We'll take a vote on that amendment to the agenda, which would go following our other action item, which is not an action item, the study report item on the legislative update. All those in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda amended. Now, all those in favor of approving the amended agenda?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. We have an agenda. We have primarily we have a study report item from on the presentation of recapping the 2025 state legislative session. Pamela Gokemeyer, Intergovernmental Relations Administrator, Brian Rice, Tom Workman, and Frankie Johnson will be presenting to us on the recap. Take it away.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Open it here. Oh, I'm at the very top. Okay. So this year was a biennial budget year, and the legislature adjourned the regular session on May 19th, as you all know, without having passed a series of the omnibus budget bills. So the legislature then appointed interim work groups to continue the work that some of the conference committees had begun before adjournment on the 19th, to start to craft some of the subject matter budget bills. And then once those spreadsheets and agreements were in place and signed off on, Governor Walz called a special session on June 9th to pass those bills before the July 1 fiscal year deadline.
Ms. Gokumar, can you excuse me for a second? I think we do have a public hearing, so I'm wondering if we need to recess this committee quickly to go to the planning committee. We're going to recess the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee in order for the planning committee to hold their. I would appreciate if the planning committee might let us go back to this, or are we going to complete the planning committee discussion? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Sorry, everyone. I'd like to convene the planning committee here at 6:30. Secretary, if you please call our roll.
Commissioner Alper, absent. Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer, absent. Vice Chair Thompson.
Here.
Chair Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move the agenda.
All those in favor, please signify. Oh, wait a second. Do I need to amend now? I think I need.
I believe.
Oh, that's right, I don't. Okay. All those in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. I'll take a motion to
I'll
approve
move the minutes from June 4th, 2025.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. We have a public hearing, and it is for the public hearing for the Minnehaha Creek Bike Skills Path Final Concept Plan. And according to Secretary, we do not have anybody who has signed up. So I'd like to open up the hearing, and anybody who wishes to speak, anybody who wishes to speak, and anybody who wishes to speak. With that, then I will close the hearing, and I'm going to recess then the planning committee and move on back to intergovernmental.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney, or Chair Forney. I'll reconvene the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, and Ms. Gokumar, please continue.
Thank you. So the special session was quick. The Senate started making really quick time, and they actually had to adjourn while the House was continuing. But then they fell way behind. So the House adjourned. It was like 10-something at night on the 9th, and the Senate was like 2:30 in the morning on the 10th. So for the Omnibus Environment Bill, they appropriated $2.54 million of general fund dollars and $9.2 from lottery and lieu, and that does represent an increase of $250,000 a year. It's in the tails and it's also ongoing, and that money goes to Met Council for the Metro Regional Parks operation and maintenance. There was $900,000 to Met Council for Metro Parks community tree planting grants that expires the end of fiscal year 28. And then it contains $1.1718 million each year of the biennium to DNR for aquatic invasive species prevention, and this is funded in part from an increase in the boat fees. And then there's $910,000 in funding for the University of Minnesota related program. But importantly, this is not the county AIS aid, and that's where we get most of our funding for our programming. I think we've had a range of like between $2,500 and maybe $15,000 from DNR, but it's not nearly the amount that we get from the county for this work. And this is significant in that last Congress, they set up community grants as part of the LCCMR process to be administered by DNR. And this is the first year they're funding those grants. And there was some negotiation, and they made some changes to the eligibility of those grants. And I think it's promising for us then that it will allow for trail maintenance and improvement on local trails. It's not for constructing new ones, but it could be an important source for us for our trails. It is also eligible for AIS management, so those are, I think, two important potential sources for us coming up. And then also, two of our LCCMR projects were funded, the Minnehaha Park South Plateau Oak Savanna and the shoreline restoration enhancement at Minneapolis Lake. So thanks to Director Arvidsson, those went through. In the legacy bill, this is one that passed in the regular session. It maintains the 40-40-20% funding split between the Metro, DNR, and Greater Minnesota Parks. It appropriates $24.310 million in fiscal year 26 and just over $27 million in 27. This equates to roughly $5.34 million for us in 26 and $5.98 in 27. We successfully advocated as part of the Metro Parks Coalition to remove some concerning funding that was in the Parks and Trails, coming out of the Parks and Trails Fund as an earmark for wilderness inquiry. And it's not that we don't think they do great work and have great programs, but historically and constitutionally that should reside in the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. And that fund has become kind of contentious in terms of how many named earmarks are coming out of that. So I think it was a matter of, fighting for those dollars, but it was successfully moved back to Arts and Cultural Heritage. There was also an amendment in the Senate to prohibit eminent domain with legacy dollars, and it's not something that we use very often, but it's an important tool for us to have in the case that we do need it. And I think it was a tied vote, as I recall, and it failed. So it was a little scrambly there, but we got it out, or prevented it from going in, I should say. The omnibus transportation bill, Senator Dibble worked with us again to get a little bit of the parkway reconstruction dollars. So he created a new local government road funding gap assistance account, and it's defined in a way that applies to us. And the session, it started off at $400,000, but at the end, through all the negotiations, it was reduced to $250,000 this year. But we are hopeful, and I think he will continue to work with us to try to have that be a continuing funding stream, which is really important because we did not have a reconstruction dedicated funding like that. They also appropriated another $1 million for the traffic safety camera pilot program, and this is something that we contacted the city about to see if we could be a participant in one location. And they started off, I think it was with 10 pilots, and they looked at the data to see where the highest crash amounts were and problem areas. So I think it's something that we could partner with them on as this continues to go and they continue to get funding. It could be a useful tool for us. They also put an interesting provision in there directing Met Council to conduct an analysis of an alternate transit corridor for the Blue Line light rail project. And the report's due in January of 26. It is not, the project is going ahead, but this is something that I think some of the Republicans wanted to look at the bus options. The tax bill thankfully kept LGA whole. There was a provision or some provisions in the House to make cuts to LGA, and luckily the Senate position held to make it whole, so there weren't cuts to that. So it looks like the city's going to get just under 82 million, and that means 9.64 million for us. Unfortunately, there were cuts to the county AIS prevention aid, which is where we get most of our funding. This was something that Governor Walz had included in his budget as well. And the House fought to not have those cuts, but the Senate had it in their bill as well. So it's being cut from 10 to 5, but it's in the tails, and so it's possible in a supplemental budget that could be changed, depending on the economy. And then there was also a provision in the House bill to allocate $400,000 to the city of Minneapolis for EAB grants for those meeting this poverty rate definition. And it was going to apply to removals in 2020 and beyond, but that was something that was removed from the final bill. Okay, geo bonding. It was a small bill. It was $700 million. Unfortunately, it didn't include any funding for local government projects. And I know we were really hoping for North Commons funding out of that. But yeah, no one got that money. They did mostly asset preservation, state infrastructure. So it was a lot of water and road money in that. Really unfortunate, there was also no regional park bonding money, which is something that I think in the past we really kind of relied on, and we saw the amounts vary over the years, but to get nothing, and a couple of years ago I think we also got nothing, but that was really disappointing. They did appropriate another $1 million to Met Council for a community tree planting grant, so we saw that funding in 2 places this year. And then they did what they called a skinny cash bill of $10.5 million. We did through work that Senator Dibble did on that skate park grant a couple of years ago. They allocated money for Central Park and Falwell Park for our skate parks. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Frankie Johnson because she and Brian worked really hard.
All right, I'm going to cover what was passed within the pension bill, which passed in the regular session, which was a modification to duty disability benefits for police and fire. This applies to para police and fire members, excluding the state patrol. It prospectively reduces healthcare benefit to 60 months instead of to age 65, and it grandfathers in individuals currently receiving the benefit to age 65. Total and permanent disabilities are still covered in the law up until age 65. It prescribes that employers cannot contest paraduty disability determination. It eliminates settlement and compensation in lieu of health insurance. Normal retirees over the age of 55 will be exempt from receiving continued health insurance benefits. It allows access to treatment benefits while the employee is actively remaining at work. And it protects employees from having to use paid leave and sick time off for mental health treatment. And it requires communication between the employer and the employee regarding healthcare invoices. This is something that Brian worked really hard on during the session, and it maintains the solvency of the pension fund overall as we see increasing numbers of duty disability benefits. Passed within the omnibus judiciary bill in the regular session, there was kind of one significant provision around data practices, and that is that it allows a pause in complying with data practice requests if you pull data for a request and that data is not collected by the requester of the data within 5 business days. Then you can kind of pause working on that request until the data is retrieved, and then further progress can be made. Included in the omnibus jobs bill passed in the special session are some minor modifications to earn sick and save time. It allows employers to require employees to give notice of the need for unforeseeable use of earned sick and save time as reasonably required rather than as soon as practicable. It permits employers to require reasonable documentation of the need for earned sick and save time after missing 2 consecutive scheduled workdays instead of 3. It clarifies that employees are not prohibited from voluntarily seeking replacement workers or trading shifts when the employee needs to use earned sick and save time. It allows employers to advance employees' earned sick and save time hours based on the employee's anticipated work for the rest of the accrual year and to make up the difference if they would have accrued more. And this goes into effect January 1, 2026, which is at the same time that earned sick and save time law goes into effect. And the 2026 legislative session convenes on February 17th. It will be a bonding year, and they could do some modifications with a supplemental budget bill. That is all we have.
If I could just make a quick comment. Okay. Jennifer, could I give you? Brian Rice, lobbyist for the park board. Jennifer's you'll get a electronic copy of this tomorrow. It's kind of our final legislative report. In hard copy, we do this every year because the board does invest a lot of time and money into this effort, and staff time and your time. And big picture was the divided legislature. You all saw that. It didn't start for 6 weeks. There was a long walkout period. It was not a lot that happened. But what did happen, I would submit, actually, the reason I handed it out is this is our agenda. We follow it about things you wanted to do. We wanted to increase LGA. Well, we didn't do that, but there were a lot of cuts in it, but it wasn't decreased. So I would categorize that as a victory. We wanted to protect legacy funding. We succeeded in doing that, which is really important, and that's now become kind of a core function of the park board, where we're getting over $5 million a year. That really helps the capital program that Mr. Arvidsson, Mr. Schroeder, and the whole planning department work on, and so that's essential. We wanted to increase operation maintenance funding. This is something that Commissioner Musich and everyone has said. We've got a great system, but we need to maintain it. The one piece that was added, and I talked to Josh Heinzman, who's a Republican lead on the Environment Committee, there was a big fight all session about what to do when they renewed the Environmental Natural Resource Trust Fund in the election last year. Prior to that, they'd carved out about 1.5% of the corpus of the trust, which is now at $2 billion. So start doing the math on that. It's $30 million a year that's going to be in perpetuity and growing. Heinzman added a very important provision, and that's trail maintenance. Does that sound familiar to us? Or maintenance of what we have, and that's a BFD, because the money has to be spread out equally around the state. I would encourage our staff, our superintendent, and who to encourage your staff to get going on that now. There'll be a window of opportunity to get funds for trail maintenance. It's not new stuff. It has to be in the public sector. It's not a private sector thing. It's got to be government trails. Heinzman lives in the Brainerd Lakes area. They've got a lot of trails and they're great, but like ours, they're falling apart. So we should really invest a lot of time now to get on the ground floor of that trail maintenance. That, like I said, that's $30 million in new money. It's got a range of things that need to be done on community grants, but trails could be a prime motivator. And I know this board has been very concerned about that. You heard about the LCCMR funding, and this new trail part will be part of that LCCMR project process, but it's this whole separate subset of it. We were successful on that. We did work on the EAB part, and we got it in the House. I mean, there was an advocate, the Minneapolis delegation wanted it. There, quite frankly, were some rather untoward and I think unfair remarks made in connection with that $400,000 appropriation about what this board did and didn't do with respect to that issue, but we'll have to deal with that in the interim. That did not pass. And really what Senator Dibble did on the Parkway funding, although small, it's a statutory, it's in the statute now, that the orphan road system in the state, which we are now eligible for this funding. It's part of the transportation advancement account that was created just 2 years ago. And so we have an opportunity there as well in the future. And I think if we work that issue, if this board continues to work that issue, it will be very important. And we did get some money in the bonding bill, actually, for skate parks. Again, Senator Dibble, our patron saint of the park system, St. Scott, did a great job on that and funded 2 projects that are in process, Central and Falwell. But and that was great. Pamela worked on that. Mr. Swenson's still here, or was here. Is he here? He worked on that issue, came with the Capitol. Senator Dibble was very happy to do that. Mr. Forsland from the Skate Park Association or group was helpful and helped facilitate that. But as I understand it, and we talked to the superintendent, these two appropriations of totaling $650,000 will free up other resources we can devote to the 28th Street skate park. And Senator Dibble's very passionate about that. He's hoping, I talked to him this morning, he's hoping that this board will, and the administration will, look very carefully and favorably on that project. I know it's been discussed, but that was really important. So even though it was a very tough session, there were some moments of sunshine, and Chief Fajado's here. This issue about duty disability was also something that came up, and we spent some time on that so that could happen. And I get the tragedy, though, is what happened last week with Melissa Hartman. I know we're going to talk about that next after this is done, but Tom can, from personal experience working for her, I met her 25 years ago when she first ran for the legislature. Melissa ran 3 times to get there, and she was the best speaker I've seen in my lifetime. Honestly, she got more stuff done that people thought was impossible. And even this tree stuff, you see her fingerprints tonight. The $900,000 that went into the metropolitan stuff were for trees, and the $1 million in the bonding bill were for trees, and she put that in there. That was Melissa Hartman. And she did so many other things. I mean, it's just a small thing, but you know, she lived just up the river, and it's just a tremendous loss to our state.
Thank you, Lobbyist Price. I'll open it up for questions for the team. Commissioner Olson?
Just comment. I mean, you know, good job on a really tough, really weird year. You know, really squeezing blood from a stone, honestly. The fact that we were able to get any funds towards any other stuff is really pretty amazing. I mean, like 1.5 billion was cut from health and from human services for, you know, disability. It's like, so we think we have a tough budget situation. They might have to come back for a special session because of the economic outlook, because of what is happening, and because of at the federal level. So it's going to continue to be tough, but these are some good wins, and you know, it's just proven that we're there and we're working hard, and y'all are working hard, and so I really appreciate it, and thank you for all that. And yeah, I mean, this bonding stuff, we'll see what happens next session if we can get a bonding bill through, but like, at some point, maybe we add to our agenda constitutional amendment so that it doesn't require 60%, you know, because we really need it, and so many places really need it. So thank you for all your hard work.
Commissioner Thompson?
Oh, thank you. I also just had a comment. Thank you for your work, and I want to thank our staff and my colleagues for standing by a place like North Commons, because watching every year, it seems like 3 out of the 4 years, and then one that was a special thing, and it didn't happen, and it did, and then it didn't. I'm blanking. Of trying to get bonding money for that place has been a crash course in me paying attention to these things that I didn't understand before, and I think most constituents and most residents of the state don't understand how interconnected all of our agencies are, and thus all of our representatives, and everything that we do is really reliant on each other. And it just is, I mean, the person that we're going to talk about again and again, and I am the least qualified person in this room to speak on Speaker Hortman, but even this budget just, it finalized because she made the vote. You know, and I'm sure we've all seen the video of her speaking just barely a week ago toward that. And it's very, very powerful to me that that's what it takes to collaborate, and that's what it takes to get things done. And it's, yeah. Anyway, I'm grateful for all the work, and thank you again for everybody for standing by North Commons despite the money not being there.
President Benny.
Thank you, Chair Menz. I'm not on this committee, but I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I also want to say thank you. I know it's a lot of work, and you guys are tenacious. Tom as well over there. And so I do think that there are some wins in there. And, you know, the Parkway money carve-out, it's a big deal. And I think it's us upholding our obligations or our commitments back to the city of Minneapolis, saying that, yeah, hey, if you pave it, we will take care of it. So we're gonna have to amass money until we can use the money. But it's a good thing. Like, it's a really good thing. It's kind of that long-range stuff again. And Commissioner Forney did a lot to get that going with our, what'd you call him? St. Scott Dibble? Yeah, nice. And Emeritus Hornstein, I don't know if that's right, but. And then also you had said something about, I think, Mr. Rice, about the $30 million grant money for trails. What would it take from this board to say, you know what, that should be a priority if we can advance a strategy or a capital plan for trail maintenance? And is this only for regional systems, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Benny, the pot of money is $28.5 million for this new, it's a totally new program, carve out from this $2 billion Environmental Natural Trust Fund. 2 years ago, it started out as community grants and for underserved communities. But the big debate this year was the Republicans felt shut out from the debate last year. They pushed and pushed on this issue, and to the extent they got a win, to the list of possible grants out of this $28.5 million are trails, state and trails of statewide and regional significance.
Okay.
So it's well defined, and it's only for maintenance, and it's for existing trails. So the philosophy is, let's not go out and build a million new things, because everybody likes the shiny object and likes the trails. But what's needed is, we have this great infrastructure, but it needs to be maintained. And so, yes, I would recommend as your lobbyist that to the superintendent, to the board, here is a chance. And as, you know, Commissioner Olson, who works there, squeezing blood out of a stone, that's about what this was this session, but it's a dedicated account. It's going to keep growing and growing and growing. And here's a group that we really ought to put our best foot forward and our worst trail forward. In our most diverse community forward, and find out what that trail is and say, look, this trail really serves the community. I mean, one idea would be, and this is just off the wall maybe even, you know, we've got the Greenway. I don't know if that would work. That's a big project. It would take a lot of money. That's a possible trail. Or we look at some other trails that are really in need.
All right, thank you. I just want to add one other thing. I think, I'm asking Frankie to double check, but I think it does also apply to local trails. I think it was state, regional, and local.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
yeah, okay.
So if we had a trail maintenance, major maintenance trail CIP, which maybe we do have a list like that, and I apologize that I don't know, that might form the basis of an application. It sounds like it's an application.
Yes, and I think there's some to be determined, but the legislature will next year act on a recommendation, just like the LCCMR is working through it. I think you're going to see a pretty accelerated process because this whole entity is just forming up. And my guess is there will be a big appetite, and there even could be a big fight about it next session about what to do. And the trail directive is that whatever money is spent on trail has to be done equally throughout the state. So can't all be just in northern Minnesota or southern Minnesota or southeastern. I think we really want to, my advice is, it's not a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it's a once in a decade opportunity at least to put forward our best foot. And it's new money, and it's going to be around for a long, long time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that report. Thank you, commissioners, for your comments. Yeah, Shingle Creek comes to mind for me. I've ridden that trail recently, and it would really, really benefit from an upgrade. It's a beautiful space. Also, I'd like to comment, Council Rice mentioned Paul Forsline from City of Skate, who did do a lot to advocate over the years for that funding for the skate parks. I just wanted to send a shout out. I know he listens to the meetings. And really, thank you very much. And with that, we will move on to our added item, which is a discussion regarding how the Park Board may honor or commemorate the life of Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark. And I just, as chair and with co-chair Olson, we want to open up some space for people to speak to the tragedy or to their knowledge of Representative Hortman, and also figure out some ideas around how the park board might be able to commemorate her life and his life. I'll open it up, and it looks like Vice Chair Olson or Co-Chair Olson is first in line.
Yeah, so I wrote some thoughts, some words, kind of what I've been thinking. I wrote it down because I didn't trust myself to ad-lib it. So we are living through a tragedy. Melissa and Mark meant so much to so many people. There really aren't words that can truly describe and encapsulate what has happened, what we're going through, and what we will continue to go through for as long as they remain in living memory. The House DFL is grieving. Dozens of my closest friends are struggling. We woke up one brutal morning and learned that our indefatigable leader was taken from the world. If I'm being honest, I'm still really numb. I'm processing it all very slowly, but I have some thoughts I'd like to share. Melissa was a true giant in Minnesota politics. She was an incredibly strong leader who could take diverse voices and viewpoints and point them in the same direction. She understood that that was where true power in politics lay, not some false bravado or authoritarian bluster. She understood that diversity of opinion was strength and could guide us to wonderful accomplishments. She stood for justice, peace, helping your neighbor, and shielding the vulnerable from hate and oppression. She played a critical role in monumental achievements like free school meals, massive increases in education funding, making Minnesota the most progressively taxed state, making our state a trans refuge that is a lifeline to thousands of people across this country in a really dark time for them. Making Minnesota, enshrining abortion access in our Constitution, that's huge. And so much more. The fact is, if you can name a significant state accomplishment in the past several years, then you can name something that Melissa helped shepherd along, at least in part. When I think about the legacy she leaves behind and where she stands among Minnesota's leaders, I do not think it's an exaggeration to state that she is one of the greats. Wellstone, Floyd B. Olson, Mondale, Humphrey, this is the company she will keep in the annals of Minnesota's history. What was so remarkable, and why I can only be grateful for being a small part of her team, is that she was only human. She was certainly an exceptional leader, but she was also an amazingly regular person. She was kind, she was fearsome, she had good days and bad, she was imperfect, and she was exactly what we needed her to be. She taught me that great leaders are just regular people who stand up for something meaningful at the right time. She taught me that to be a great leader is to be the bedfellow of sacrifice. The late nights, the constant events, the time with family missed, the strong and steady face of confidence you put on when you are anything but, the personal hate and vitriol you endure for standing up for what you know is right, the long nights, the constant difficult conversations you have with your colleagues, of being the person who has to say no at times to things that you know are good and just and right. The impossible compromises you have to make and the heartbreaking votes you have to take to stick to your word for the greater good. She taught me that being a great leader is almost no fun at all. Almost, because I also got to witness the unbridled joy she felt when a long and just fight was finally won. She was a bright spark in an increasingly dark world, and while she may no longer be with us, her spark will certainly stay with us for a very long time. I see it live on in all of my fellow colleagues. I see it in all my wonderful DFL legislators who are wonderful leaders in their own right. I see it in the monumental laws she helped pass that will help so many millions of people for generations to come. I see that spark in all of us who are determined to light up this dark world, who are determined to make things better, more just, and more peaceful. Thank you, Speaker Hortman. Thank you for all your good and all you've taught me. Thank you for being a leader through these difficult times.
Commissioner Forney.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not on this committee, but hope I make it through this. I was at the Humphrey Mondale dinner on Friday, and she was there, and I have this vision, and I do believe this really happened. I do believe we were touching elbows while we were talking to each other, and I don't know why, but I just kind of feel this energy still of her. I didn't know her that well, I really didn't. But I don't know, is it appropriate that I refer to her as Speaker Emeritus Hartman? She definitely is that. But what I want to speak to is the grace of Melissa and Mark's children. And as Vice President Musich already spoke and everything, the 7 ways to honor the Hortmans. I lost it when I read what they suggested. Plant a tree? The first thing on, it is so powerful to me. And then, of course, the next one to, what was it? Visit a local park. Anyway, I have a suggestion that we all could rally around in honor of her and Mark. It is a new concept, or not, yeah, it is new, okay. Anyway, I'm not sure I'm going to say it right, but anyway, it is the Miyawaki planting of forest. Basically, what it is to grow really, really dense forests, very, very small area, and you put so much variety in it. Bushes and trees of all different types. And basically, their understanding is that all of this vegetation are communicating with each other and looking out for each other and growing each other, which is exactly what she did. As Commissioner Olson just indicated and everything, she did. She crossed lines. She nurtured all the members of the House. And we haven't done this in our system yet. A good friend of mine's daughter is actually one who has written about it. She lives in France now. I have an article here from The Guardian in Britain. Anyway, it's something that Assistant Superintendent Varick and I have spoken about doing. But to me, it just really resonates what she's about. And I spoke with Assistant Superintendent Schroeder, and the thought of possibly doing this along Shingle Creek or along Weber Park on the east side. If it works into our plans, I think this is something that we could put out a huge call of fundraising to memorialize her through this type of planting of a forest. So I would love us all to consider that. I would be happy to rally as much as I can this way of memorializing a truly wonderful person for all of us. Thank you.
Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chairmans. I too saw Melissa and Mark this last week. Thursday night, we saw each other at MIA, which is where Melissa and I have seen each other every couple of months for the past couple of years now. And as we have every time we've chatted, we talked about trees, and we talked about our love of trees and the work that we're doing in our various capacities, trying to expand the tree canopy here in Minnesota. So this idea of planting trees to honor them, I think, is a good one. I don't know much about Milwaukee forests, so I guess I'll have to look into that a bit. And I'd also like to hear from our forestry director how feasible they feel that something like that is, particularly in a really dense urban area. But I would like us to think about planting some trees and inviting their kids that wrote such an inspiring message to all of us about how we need to overcome our grief and any anger that something like this might cause, to do positive things, to remember them instead. So it's a great idea. Thank you, Meg.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I just want to thank my colleagues for what they've shared, especially Commissioner Olson. That really moved me, what you shared. Didn't do my best. Hearing the love of biking as well as we have in the planning committee, you know, there's all this naming stuff that we've been talking about, but I just think as Commissioner Forney talked about north side places along the river, we have, of course, the Upper Harbor Terminal, and I'm sure we're going to have plenty of trails. That might be a good spot to just name a section of the bike trail. That's just if we're talking about ways, that's something that came to my mind. That would very much just be an actionable thing, like Commissioner Musich said, and Chairman's like, sometimes it's nice to just have something to do in lieu of just grief. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'll say a few words. I did not know Representative Hortman well. I may have met her once or twice. My wife had met her a few times as well. And I think that I really wanted to make sure that we had some space to talk about this and really honor and build the legacy of Melissa Hortman. I've had some ideas. I've spoken with Representative Jordan. Sydney Jordan was very close with Melissa. She sat next to her. You may have seen her on CNN or on NPR a couple of times speaking about Representative Hortman and her relationship and what she did for people. And what I've learned over the past couple of days is that Melissa Hortman and I would have been very good friends. She had a love of trees, a love of service, and a love of democracy, and the democracy that we all, I think, on this board want. I would welcome any suggestions, if any staff are willing to work on something that we can commemorate. I think that limiting her legacy to a naming is not enough. I think that what happened this last weekend, and my own personal connection to this concern over the years of political violence is an important moment and something that is going to endure. And how do we endure Melissa Hortman's legacy to make sure that democracy grows and trees grow and kids grow? And I'm hoping that maybe we can set up something that may not have a clearly defined end, but something like a Hortman Fund or for trees or education or something that her family could be involved in, that the park board, the Minneapolis Park Board, can support and be with and allow space for those ideas that Representative Hortman espoused in her work and her personal life, and how we can continue to grow that legacy. I think that in speaking with Representative Jordan and maybe Commissioner Musich, I did not know how close you were with Melissa, and ensuring that we build upon the legacy that she started, that this is not an end for Melissa Hortman and her legacy, and I think we have an opportunity to do that. So whatever we do, and any staff who might be interested, please reach out to me or Commissioner Forney or anybody on this committee at this point, because we will be bringing something forward, and I don't know what that is, but I hope that it's something that is open enough to allow the legacy of service, the legacy of trees, the legacy of a democracy that we all want to fight for over time. So thank you for letting me say some things, and with that, I will adjourn the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee at 7:13.
I'd like to reconvene the Planning Committee. Let's see now. We have motion before, no, we don't have a motion there, excuse me. Okay,
We are at our-
we have had the public hearing portion, and unless some people would like to have a presentation, we will move on to the action items. If somebody would
I'll
like to
move.
read our first resolution, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I'll move Resolution 2025-125. Resolution approving the preferred concept plan for Bike Skills Park at South 34th Avenue in Minnehaha Creek Segment 4 tennis courts transformation.
Any questions? Oh, excuse me, is it vice? Did I call you vice president? I'm gonna go ahead and call you vice president.
That's quite all right. I'm not on this committee, so I appreciate being given an opportunity to speak. This is something that's happening along Minnehaha Creek in my district. It's largely attributable to a really dedicated group of families in the area that have been, my goodness, like over a decade now, I think. They've been talking with Adam and I and other members of planning just about the role that bicycles can play in kids' lives, and in terms of like teaching them life skills and getting them to feel confident in the environment. And yeah, it's been great to see just how they've persevered and helped educate their friends and neighbors about just the joys that something like this can bring to build confidence amongst young people learning to bicycle, particularly girls. They also were big champions of getting a innovation grant for girls bike camp, and that's a huge deal that people are very excited about, that we get really long wait lists for even today. I mean, it's been years now that that's been going on, so I'm very excited to see this moving forward. I know not every single person in the neighborhood's jazzed to see it happening, but I hope they'll be won over when they get to see the joy on those kids' faces when they're out there learning to manage their bikes better. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. I think it's real important, and I'm excited about this. Anyway, oh, excuse me, Commissioner Thompson.
I just want to say, piggybacking on that, I think it's great. I'm just going to throw, when I was a kid, we used to make dirt bike paths in the different areas of the woods or the parks, and we'd get in trouble for it. So it's nice to know that we're actually embracing this and letting kids have a place to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. On to our next resolution.
I'll move Resolution 2025-126. Resolution approving temporary occupancy under Section 4F of the Transportation Act of 1966 for the Nicollet Avenue South Bridge Rehabilitation Project adjacent to and within Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm not seeing any lights, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. On to our last resolution.
I'll move Resolution 2025-129. Resolution naming the trail along east bank of Mississippi River between 8th Avenue Northeast and 16th Avenue Northeast within the Above the Falls Regional Park, the Rick Recker East Bank Trail.
Thank you. And I would like to, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this correctly, but anyway, move a alternative resolution, and I will read that. Resolution directing, in lieu of approving the Rick Recker East Bank Trail nomination, staff to work with the nominator to develop a proposal for board approval that will recognize the importance of the running community to the riverfront and honor the legacy of Rick Recker without naming a park or park asset for a specific individual. So I'll open it up for discussion about this, and I will share with you at least, did I do that right? Okay. Anyway, sorry. This has gone through a long time of, shall I say, presentation to the community, but it's something that I've had, oh, okay. First of all, I should say that Rick Recker's daughter, Stephanie, has reached out, and I had a delightful conversation with her and saying that I'm having some difficulty with this naming, and having a very frank and candid conversation with her. She suggested, is there an alternative way, perhaps a plaque memorializing running, the legacy of it? And the more we talked, I sense that as far as having something specifically named an asset for her father was not essential. And so that's why I decided to put this forward. And I shared it with her, and her comment back was, "I love it," exclamation point. So I just, at least want people to know that there is support by her. What this is going to look like, I don't know. I think some of you have realized that I try to do alliterations and puns and stuff like that. And I mentioned that, to me, I feel there is a value in naming that it is a place-making action. So I actually came up with the Wrecker running route. Anyway, we laughed about that and thought that would be fun. But I think that there's going to be a great deal of, or potential of more people wanting to be acknowledged in some way. And so that's why looking at memorials and tributes in different ways, I think could be something that would be a wonderful way to honor people and legacies, et cetera. I was reminded this week by some sort of program, I think on NPR, that it was 1972, the first time a woman was allowed to run in the Boston Marathon because they were afraid that their uterus was going to fall out, excuse me. Anyway, we've come a long way, people. And the fact that Rick Recker was a part of some of this, I think, is very important. I think we talked earlier about, just girls' sports and the fact that we haven't been acknowledging it. Anyway, but I think that there's a lot of history that we can continue to amplify. And that's, I think, what the direction of this motion is. So I encourage people to accept this as an alternative and move it forward. Vice Chair Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Forney. I'm not shy about discussing my challenges with our naming policy, which is why we've tried to amend it, change it a bit. I also have profound challenges with naming things after people just in general, for the challenges they could create in the future as they have created them for us now from past things, right? That being said, I don't entirely feel comfortable to take this off the track with our committee being so small at the moment. So, Chair Forney, is this meant to supplant Resolution 2025-129? Or is this a separate resolution? Maybe I need to ask one of our staff members to help me understand what it is I'd be voting for.
Yes, it is to supplant. And I just at least would like you to know that Commissioner Alper has reached out to me saying that, number one, she couldn't attend, and she was fully supportive of moving this direction. So it would be supplanting it. And as I indicated, Rick Recker's daughter is fully in support of that. So hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. Thank you.
Not seeing any lights, I believe what we need to do is we need to vote on the substitute resolution. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh, no. So that, I mean, it carried, but, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that action carries, and so with that, then I will adjourn then the planning committee.
And the time being 7:24, with the same three amazing commissioners, I will call the Administration and Finance Committee to order. Could you please call the roll, Secretary Ringgold?
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Forney.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Vice Chair Schaefer, absent. Chair Thompson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would someone like to move the agenda?
I'll move the agenda.
Thank you. All those who accept the agenda, all those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Anyone against it? No. We have an agenda. Would someone like to move our minutes?
I also move the minutes from June 4th, 2025.
Thank you. All those in favor of adding our minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Would someone like to move our resolution? First, it's a long one. It'll be fun to.
I move resolution 2025-115, resolution awarding construction contract to G Urban Companies, Inc. for the base bid amount of $1,026,000 and taking alternate number 1 for the storage building for $250,000 and alternate number 2 for the Granite Trail and concrete pad for $92,000, totaling $1,368,000 for the Farview Park Phase 2 improvements. Bid event number 3604, pending approval by the City of Minneapolis Finance and Property Services, Procurement Division, and Minneapolis Civil Rights Department, and further authorizing administrative use of 5% construction contingency up to $68,400 for the necessary construction change orders that may arise with the contract, and authorizing the transfer of $60,000 from the 2025 Capital Investment Construction Contingency Fund.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have that passing. And I will myself move resolution 2025-127, resolution amending the NPP 2025 construction contingency to allocate $105,000 to the Victory Splash Pad Improvement Project. Anyone have any questions on this one? Yeah. All those in favor of resolution 2025-127, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries, and I will adjourn the Administration and Finance Committee at 7:26. Thank you all.